Hey everyone, so I've got another VRS lap analysis video here that I've been wanting to do for a while. So I have my Suzuka lap from my lap guide, and I have a comparison lap from Eddie Wallace, who is a fan of the Camel GT series. He's interested in running the series and would like to improve his pace before he jumps onto the track with other drivers. And I think there are a lot of other drivers maybe in a similar um, mindset of wanting to improve their pace to be more competitive, and hopefully this will be beneficial to others who are in that situation. So what I've done is I've had him run laps with the same setup, the same exact weather, and he got to a point where he was running consistent laps and improving his time to a point where I think that we have a good representative lap of his typical pace here. And the difference in lap is about a 5-second time. We're going to go through this kind of sequentially by sector. Now, the sectors in VRS are extended beyond the sectors that are in iRacing. So we have 13 sectors to look at. And interestingly enough, he actually was a hundredth quicker here in this sector. So I'll take a look at that one. And we're just going to start through this, starting with the start of the lap. We're going to look at kind of more high level, just generally speaking, not real in depth, not too much in depth anyway. Hopefully, just make this simple and easy to understand, and look for some quick gains that could potentially be made here. I'm going to look at speed, I'm going to look at throttle and braking for the most part. We'll look at line distance a little bit as well, but we're just going to look at some key differences that could be helpful. Now, the first sector here is just the front straight. The difference in time here is really based off of the amount of speed carried off the final corner. So we're going to come back to this and maybe finish up on that sector. So let's start in sector 2. All right, so sector 2 is the first couple turns, and we've got almost a second difference here. So this is a sector we're going to definitely want to focus on. So the biggest difference that we see here is the braking point. So you can see where Eddie's going to be braking here at about 70% and much earlier, and I'm braking a little later with less braking. So you can see the significant difference, the significant gap in speed there. So that's going to be the most significant difference in the time in these two sectors. So if we look at where the braking point is here, and we're going to compare that, this is actually where he's starting to brake. And if we jump forward to where I'm starting to brake, that's going to actually be up to here. So that's something that takes some time to get a feel for how deep you can really brake and how much speed you can carry into the corners in a high downforce car. And I think it feels unnatural to many that are new to the car or new to driving a high downforce type car like this, that it just doesn't feel like the car could go into the corner that deep and carry that much speed into the corner until you've done it, until you've actually felt what that feels like to go through the corner with that amount of speed and gain the confidence that the car can take that much speed into the corner. Once you've felt it, it kind of clicks, and it's much easier to reproduce that, and you get more confidence in being able to do that. So that's one of the biggest differences to definitely focus on, is just braking later. And of course, you can brake less as well. So if we look at the amount of speed difference, it looks like we're going to jump from 130 to 170. So you can see just how much more speed could be carried into the corner by braking just a bit later. So let's see, and of course on throttle much later as well, because you're going to be on throttle all the way to the braking point up to here. The line into the corner, I'm not going to talk too much about, because you can actually take a couple of different lines in through turn 1, and I take a little bit of a wider line that, to me, it's just more comfortable. I wouldn't say it's faster, but we're not going to see much of a difference there in speed. The bigger difference is going to come on the exit of the corner, and he actually has a wider line through the mid corner point. So if we look at where he's at, he's actually 10 feet wider. And so I think he's missing this apex here, right about this point. So I think he's running a little bit wide of that apex, almost 9 feet wide of that. And as a result, as he's getting back to throttle, he's actually going to be kind of shallow here on using all of the road on the exit and getting back to throttle just a little later. So this is the full throttle point, and I'm using more of the track here on the exit. So if we look at the difference right here, where there's about a 14-foot difference, you can see where I'm coming all the way out onto the curb, and he's a little bit further to the right here. So just making sure to use all of the road, which will allow you to get back to full throttle sooner. Okay, so let's jump to the next sector. So we've got a little more than 4/10 here. The first thing we'll look at is the line difference. So not as significant, a little more than 3 feet. If we look at the view, this is the corner entry point. So the car's right up next to the grass, and getting the car all the way up to the right here allows you to carry more speed through the corner to open it up. So it's not as sharp as a turn. So if you're not turning as much, you can carry more speed. So pretty straightforward there. And of course, there's also a little bit more speed just at the start of the sector, just from the prior sector. But now we're going to see he's got the right idea as far as throttle's concerned, modulating throttle throughout the corner, although could get away with more throttle and more speed through the corner. And then braking's a little bit different. I actually am tapping brakes 3 times here. It's actually really light braking, even though you can see a large grid here, or scale here. That's actually only 15% for him and 5% for me. So pretty light braking, not a significant difference there. But getting back to throttle off the corner a little bit earlier, and you can see how he's actually sacrificing the exit a little bit to set up the next corner in the S's, where he is really close on time. So he looks real good there. I think he's doing a good job of setting it up and taking a good line through there. So that looks good. Same with the next sector, even closer on time. Line looks good through here. Different braking points, but I think every time I go through many of these sectors, I'm tapping and adjusting the brake and throttle different every time. So I'm not going to focus too much on that. And his time is real good through here, so we're not going to talk too much about that. All right, so coming around Dunlop, we've got about a little more than 3/10. Biggest difference here is not using all of the line on the exit of the corner. So you can see there's about a 12.5-foot difference on the exit here. So I was able to get back to full throttle sooner and let the car run out all the way wide and just carry more speed off the corner. So if you look at the position, this is the position of the car at that point in time, right out to the close to the grass and dirt there, and he's about another 12 to 13 foot to the left there. So I think the thing to work on there, or to focus on there, is that getting to the throttle sooner, and that just comes with practice. I mean, just knowing how soon you can get to throttle, and then carrying that speed. You get back to throttle too soon, and you carry too much speed, then you're going to be off into the dirt. Not enough, and you're going to just run a little bit more of a shallow line. And so finding that point in between where you get right out to the edge of the track and you're getting the most amount of speed out of the car just comes with practice. But other than that, not too much to say about it. Okay, so now we're going to come down into Degner, and let's take a look at, this is just under a couple tenths, so just take a look at this one briefly. All right, so it's mainly just overslowing the car maybe a little bit. You can see where the amount of speed starts to diverge here at right at about this point. So This is the breaking point, right at about that 50 sign. So if we look at the graphs here, you can see where I'm carrying throttle a little longer and braking a little less. So other than that, not too significant of a difference, but you can see how that results in a couple tenths. And let's go ahead and actually, yeah, I don't think that we're just getting back to full throttle sooner as well on the exit of the corner. So this is the full throttle point right about here. And then he doesn't get back to full throttle here. That'll just feeling comfortable with getting full throttle as you come up on this curbing. That'll come with practice as well. That's something that you just kind of have to get used to, but because it's going to feel a little bit uneasy. And I think that yeah, his line was a couple feet to the right, so I think he was just being cautious not to run up on the curbing too high. All right, so let's move into sector 8, where we've got about 4/10. All right, so coming right off the apex of the corner here, let's take a look at this. Braking looks good. The line looks good. And as we come off the corner, this is where we're going to see the difference in speed. And this is where I think we're going to start to see, do we count from, of course, there's going to be a little bit of speed at the start of this sector just from getting back to throttle, full throttle in the prior sector. But discounting that as we come off the corner, the line looks good. Could have actually maybe run a little wider still in order to get to throttle, or getting on throttle sooner would have run the car a little wider. But yeah, he's getting back to throttle just a little later, and then you can see the difference in speed of about 13 miles per hour. 12.7 is the max there. So just being able to get back to throttle just a little sooner. But other than that, he's got the right idea. I mean, this is a good line. Inputs are roughly timed right, and just it's a matter of kind of perfecting those. All right, next sector. This is a big one, the hairpin. We've got 8/10. So let's see exactly what we can see here. So carrying more speed into the corner, throttle much later. It's actually not braking enough. And wow, the exit of the corner looks really good though. So wow, is that really 8/10 right here just in the braking zone? This is a pretty significant difference in speed as you come from lifting on throttle from here to here. It's resulting in a difference of 145 miles per hour to 118 miles per hour. So kind of a similar story to what we've seen previously in the lap in turn 1, where you can just carry throttle deeper into the corner and brake a little deeper into the corner. So he didn't need to brake as much because he just wasn't carrying as much speed into the corner. And getting back to full throttle a little late as well. But the line looks good. If we kind of zoom in on that, he's coming in a little shallow on the entry. Let's take a look at where I'm actually starting to turn in here and where the car is at. So this is where the turn in starts to happen. No, I think the line is fine there. Take a look. Yeah, the line is fine there. In fact, he's staying a little wider and even coming in a little wider. So the line on entry looks good. Go back to the overhead here. On exit, to get back to full throttle a little sooner, My inputs are a little bit erratic. You can see how, actually, I think, did I short shift? Yeah, there I short shift into second and back to full throttle right there. So just a hair earlier to full throttle. All right, spending too much time on that probably already. So let's go back to the next sector. We've got a tenth here in 10, um, mainly due to the speed coming into the corner. My shift up point was a little sooner. There's his shift up into fifth, and we've got a difference of about 6 miles per hour at that point, and the gap kind of is slowly reduced. But other than that, I mean, that's the 10th. All right, so spoon. 7/10 in spoon. As we come into spoon, um, just slightly, I'm just coming off throttle just slightly later, but brake and throttle inputs are pretty close here. Um, I think that his braking was a little harder, so the car was slowed a little bit more, and there you can start to see a difference in the amount of speed, about a 15, 16 mile. There's 17 mile per hour difference in speed. But the line through the corner looks good. Line distance is pretty close. And getting back to full throttle just a little later. So good news is we're seeing a lot of similarities throughout the lab. A lot of things that, techniques and things that could be practiced that could carry over to different areas of the track where, just being able to brake just a little deeper and slow the car just a little less and be able to carry more speed into the corners. And that's 7/10. So that's quite a bit of time that could be made up there just by carrying just a bit more speed in. And then, of course, slightly earlier on the throttle. This full throttle point, let's see where we're at. So this is where I'm at full throttle, and this is where he's at full throttle. So that's the difference visually. So from here to where the curving is, just being able to get full throttle a little sooner. All right, so let's jump to, oh, and I guess actually one important thing to note: this sector goes all the way to the end of the straight, and that full throttle point will make a fairly significant difference because that's going to accumulate time all the way to the end of the straight. So that's the other reason that getting the throttle sooner will help. So this is where he's actually quicker. Now I found this interesting because in my lap guide, I actually had more speed coming into this corner by, I don't know, less than a mile per hour, but had a slightly more speed than him. One of the things I mentioned in my lap guide was that I like to just kind of let the car run kind of a more natural, wider line through here. Well, notice his line is 8 feet to the left, so he actually ran just he just kept it tighter. Nice tight line there. Didn't let the car run wide and ended up being 100th quicker. So I think that kind of proves that what I said in my lap guide wasn't necessarily going to help much, if anything. In a race where you have fuel, I think it can help to run a little bit more of a natural, wider line like that. But in a qualifying lap, you can see that he just keeps it tight, further to the left of where I am, almost 9 feet to the left, and he ends up running a quicker sector there. So kind of cool to see. All right, so the next sector we have is the last. And of course, we'll look at the front straight again real quickly, but this is 8/10. So similar story. We've got difference in inputs. Let's look at the map again. All right, so staying on throttle just a little later. Braking inputs look good. In fact, the amount of braking and the timing of the braking looks real good there for him. Gosh, when I look back at this, it's almost surprising to me that he's actually a full 8/10 off. But it's amazing to see how much difference in time can accumulate just with some different timing of these brake and throttle inputs. Oops, steering angle we're looking at. That's actually, look how close the steering angle is there. Coming off the corner, I think, is where the most significant amount of time is lost, maybe. Let's see, it is counting. Where is the time? Okay, so we're starting at minus 4.227, and then to mid-corner, to the middle of the chicane, that's about almost 4/10 there so far. And there's the other 4/10. So yeah, about an equal amount of time lost on corner entry as there is on corner exit. One other thing I think that's worth noting is that as you get into your braking zone, you want a nice quick transition from throttle to brake. And so really immediately as you're releasing the throttle, you want to be reaching your threshold brake. So there's a bit of a gap, and this is where it's very beneficial to learn and practice left foot braking, where you can actually you can even have a little bit of an overlap there where as you're releasing the throttle, you're already applying the brakes there. And he does do that a bit here, which is good. But it's always worth pointing out that it's good to get a nice quick transition straight to brake and get that hard threshold braking done early, and then to start to kind of ease off the brakes as you get to the turn-in point. You can see the turn-in point there. His line in the turn-in and the steering angle is hard to see exactly how much that affects his speed. Let's see if we got a comparison from here to here. So we've got about 4.4 down to, yeah, not too much of a difference there. And then just being able to get back to full throttle much sooner. This is the full throttle point from my reference lap right at this point here. And of course there's some shift up points. You can see the blips there. And his full throttle happens right about this point. So one of the things I mentioned in the guide was that to ensure that you can get to full throttle safer, as I've done right at this point, just go ahead and use all of the track and not try to turn in too much, because that could definitely lead into a spin as you get to full throttle soon. You want to make sure that you're not turning too heavily, and because if you're turning too heavily, that is definitely going to increase the likelihood. So all right, so let's look at sector 1 now that we've gone around the lap, and with that earlier throttle point, as I mentioned here, as we get back to the first sector, that's really what also results in another almost 2/10 down the front straight. So that's how important that final throttle point is, because it's gonna accumulate time all the way down that front straight. All right, so there's a quick lap analysis, and hope this is helpful for anyone who's looking at ways to find some more time and to participate in the series and get up to pace. I know it can be frustrating or even intimidating to jump into a race where you feel like you're too far off pace to be competitive, and you don't want to be a danger to others, or you don't want to be lapped by the leaders, or causing incidents for others on the track. But really, there's no substitution for practice, and to continue to look for time and experiment with different approaches to the way you take a given corner, or look for ways for improvement. And so I'll tell you, when I do my practice sessions, and when I'm experimenting and looking for the limits in traction, I spin and crash quite a bit. I mean, that's the quickest way to find those limits, honestly. And so you want to be able to find those limits in practice so that you don't exceed them in the race. And so that's really the most important thing is just experiment. See how deep you can break into a corner, and that's the quickest way to find out. So hope it helps. Talk to y'all later.